Persona 5, Persona 5, Persona 5. Aside from some Sony stands, most people seem to want this game on the Nintendo Switch, including my festively plump rump, which you probably already knew if you've seen my videos before. But for all the reasons why I think Persona 5 on the Switch would tear ass around the backyard, I'd be as bold as to say that HD remasters for Personas 3 and 4 just might be as good of an idea, and I dare say possibly even a better idea. Why is that, you ask? Well, sit back in the rustiest chair you've got, drink the rest of that bull milk if you want to increase your courage stat, press the subscribe button if you haven't already, and allow me, the greatest rapper in my bedroom, Cameron all one word, to tell you why now's the perfect time for Personas 3 and 4 to get HD remasters on the Nintendo Switch. Alright, so right off the bat, I already know that hardcore Sony stands hate it when anybody dares mention the possibility of the Persona series having anything to do with Nintendo, even though the two have been flirting behind Sony's back for years now, and it's clear as day that they're more than just friends at this point. But if you're one of those people who are already leaving an upper decker in the comments though, then just relax and hear me out, because when I say that HD remasters for Personas 3 and 4 should be on the Nintendo Switch, I'm not saying that the same remasters also shouldn't be on the PS4. It's just that regardless of whether it's now or later, I'm sure that PlayStation consoles are eventually going to get all the older Persona games at some point. And while I'd bet money that the same's true for Nintendo as well, it's not officially confirmed yet, so for now, focusing on the idea of these remasters coming to the Switch just sounds sexier. Plus, you know, it is portable too, so suck it. All I know is that with Persona 5 being as popular as it is, there's definitely a demand for more games, and since I'd imagine Persona 6 is probably a long way off, the next best thing would be to let Personas 3 and 4 capitalize on the spotlight in the meantime. And yeah, I know there's also the first 2.5 Persona games, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't get those too at some point, but if the idea is to release old games for the people who love Persona 5, then it just makes sense to prioritize the two games that have the same slice-of-life mechanics that seem to work so well with the mainstream. Basically, the original Persona games are kind of like the first two Fallouts in that they don't offer what most modern fans want, albeit to a much lesser extent with Persona. So for everyone who's played Persona 5 and still finds themselves wanting more, then I'd strongly recommend that they check Personas 3 and 4 out, but what I wouldn't recommend, however, is buying a PlayStation Vita just to play Persona 4 Golden. And if you don't know what Persona 4 Golden is, it's pretty much that game's royal. I mean, don't get me wrong, the PS Vita's awesome, but if you don't want any other games for that console, then it's probably not worth it just to play Persona 4 Golden, even though this one game's the main reason why I won't sell my Vita. However, if Persona 4 Golden were to get an HD remaster on modern consoles, then I'd finally be able to sell my Vita and pay my pesky child support. I mean, you could just play the standard Persona 4 on the PS2 for like dirt cheap, but even though I've never personally played that version myself, I wouldn't recommend it judging by all the missing features that I read about. There are a few hardcore fans who actually think the original version's better, but for the most part, the majority seems to agree that Golden's the way to go. And if you ask me, I think it's perfect the way it is, and absolutely comparable to the 5th game to where it wouldn't feel like a huge step back or anything. So because the game's already perfect the way it is, all Atlas would really have to do is copy and paste it over to modern consoles, which is why I'm shocked we haven't gotten it yet, because while it would be nice to have some extra costumes or something, it's not really necessary. However, even though you could easily go back to Persona 4 after finishing 5 without getting frustrated at the lack of improvements and features, 3 on the other hand would be a bit more complicated for a remaster, mainly because there's like 37 versions of the game that all have their pros and cons, and I'd imagine it'd be a pretty big pain in the ass to combine all the best features into one game. The version of Persona 3 that I played was FES on the PS2, but the PSP version that came out later on called P3P apparently improved everything that I hate about the original Persona 3 and then some, like not being able to choose your party's commands in battle and things like that. However, the downside of the PSP version is that the graphics took a noticeable hit, so if Atlas were to keep the upgraded gameplay features of the PSP version along with the superior graphics of the original, then I'd imagine that they'd have to put a considerable amount of time and effort into the project. Not saying it couldn't be done or anything like that, but it wouldn't be as easy as remastering 4 Golden, which is pretty much ready to go right now as far as I'm concerned, even with the high standards of 5 Royal. And not only porting either one of these games make assloads of money from all the new fans Persona 5 created, but if you brought these games over to the Switch as well instead of just keeping it on the PlayStation, then it'd definitely create even more fans on top of that. I know most Switch owners would still prefer getting 5, and I could understand that, but a lot of people just bought that game twice within the past 3 to 4 years, and while I do think a Switch port would still sell out the ass despite this, it might be a better idea to hold off on it for a little bit. Plus, if there's any legal or technical difficulties that make porting 5 over in the immediate future a hassle, then 4 Golden just might be a better bet. And honestly, I don't think it hurt the sales one bit if they just kept the PSP visuals for 3 if Atlas didn't feel like updating them, because honestly, they really do look just fine the way they are, and I also think the Switch owners would just be happy to get the game in the first place. But again, I'm not saying that HD remasters for Personas 3 and 4 should be exclusive to the Switch, since it'd obviously be better for everybody if they were on the PlayStation as well. I'm not about taking any company's exclusives away or anything like that, I just want everyone to be able to enjoy a series that I think's pretty neat. I have seen a few people online here and there wanting the 3rd and 4th games to get full remakes to look and play more similarly to Persona 5, but that almost take as much trouble as just making an entirely new game, so even though I usually think remakes are pretty cool, the stories were told just about as good as it could have been in the originals, and while the gameplay was improved upon in 5, it's not like it became something completely different or anything like that. The reason why Resident Evil remakes are so awesome is because the stories aren't really that important in those games, so you might as well reuse the settings that everybody loved. I mean, Persona 5's not necessarily more popular than 3 and 4 were just because its mechanics are more polished, it's just that more people were able to discover it thanks to the internet, so I don't see any reason why full remakes for 3 and 4 would be necessary. In fact, I'd even go as far as to say that I don't want them, since simple remasters have so much to offer longtime fans, new fans, and even the Persona series in general, especially when the popularity and intrigue of these games is at an all-time high. And if there's still somehow hesitation for bringing the 5th game over to the Switch to capitalize on all the curious Smash fans, then 3 and 4 really would be a better way to gauge interest on the platform than Persona 5 Scramble, whether they be multiplats or for some reason even Switch exclusives. Obviously, the entirety of the existing Persona fanbase is on PlayStation, but even though my butt tells me that Persona games are always going to sell better on Sony consoles, I'll still boldly claim that more than enough PlayStation owners would still prefer the Switch version for the obvious portability and novelty of owning mainline Persona games on a Nintendo console to make it worth Atlus's while. And I think they'd be more than happy with how much it'd grow the series, because I can tell you from experience that Persona 4 Golden on the Vita definitely hooked me pretty damn good. I mean, don't get me wrong, even though I love Persona, I'm certainly not naive enough to think that everybody else would love it too, but I am pretty confident that assloads of the curious Smash Bros fans who'd play Persona 4 out of curiosity would be hooked just like I was. And even if the 6th game were exclusive to PlayStation for any reason at all, Persona ports on the Switch would still lead to a bigger fanbase that'd be interested in it. So even if I were Sony's fat ass, I'd still want the older Persona games on Nintendo's little hybrid that could, and even 5 for that matter. Again, I already know that Sony doesn't own Atlus or Persona, I'm just saying that if they were smart, then they'd want the series to grow on the Switch too. And as if all this wasn't enough of a reason to remaster Personas 3 and 4 under normal circumstances, we are kind of in the middle of a global pandemic right now, with games being delayed left and right out the ass. And I'd imagine that whatever newer games Atlus has been working on are probably going to need a little bit more time as well. And I don't know about you, but I think ports of older games are 1,000 times better than nothing at all, since it gives gamers something to do in the meantime, and it also gives publishers some revenue so they can keep making new games once things go back to normal. So with all this bonus potential, HD remasters for Personas 3 and 4 would have to grow the series with all the curious Switch owners, as well as being new to most people, since playing the originals is somewhat of a hassle. I think these games should be at the top of the list as far as ports or remasters are concerned. Personally, I'd rather them be separate standalone releases so we wouldn't have to deal with download codes or anything like that, but even a compilation would be pretty cool too. All I'm saying is that 2020 is the perfect time to remaster these games, and if Atlus goes through with it, then I think they'd be stupid to not invite the Switch to the party. But anyway, what do you think about Personas 3 and 4 getting HD remasters? Do you not want to see it happen? Do you think now's the perfect time to do it? And if you do want to see it, then do you want to see them on the Switch? Either way, vote in the poll, let me know what you think in the comments below, and as always, I'll try my goddamnedest to respond to everybody. But let me tell you, if there's 2 people who would watch a DuckTales marathon with no questions asked, then it would definitely be today's patrons of the day, NPC Villager and John Polish Impossible to Say. If you want to be badasses like these two, then consider supporting FU Game Crew on Patreon for loot boxes and all kinds of wacky rewards in the mail. And if you want to make cameos, then send pictures or videos of you rocking any FU Game Crew merch doing whatever you want as long as YouTube allows it, like these badasses you see before you. And as always, like and share this video if you want to help this channel grow, and if you want to prove that you're not down with registered sex offenders, then go right ahead and press that subscribe button if you haven't already. Also, I'm going to be streaming on Twitch at Cameron All One Word whenever I play games from now on, so feel free to come hang out and heckle me sometime. My name's Cameron All One Word, and I'll be back with more videos soon.
So I want to say thank you to your loyalty, thank you for your support.